By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
Welcome to another episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And today we are back in Hilversum, the Netherlands, for the finals of the Hill Giant Cup number 5. And this is going to be so cool. We've got two gentlemen fighting to be king of the hill. We have Chris, who's on robots. He's taking on Ado, who's on a white-blue mid-range. He's the defending champion. Now, before I start with the deck decks, I've got lovely deck photos of both of these decks. I first would like to ask for your attention for a message from our sponsor, 341 Trading. 341 Trading is one of Europe's leading Magic the Gathering retailers. Their online shop has a fantastic selection of high-end Magic cards, especially for vintage, legacy, and yes, old school Magic players. They now exclusively offer my community free, fully insured, and fast worldwide shipping on all their high-end singles, full sets, and out-of-print sealed products. They upload new cards every Wednesday and have weekly sale offers and reductions waiting just for you. Use my code TIMMY to get free worldwide shipping on your first order over $500 or euros. Have fun ordering those cards, and thank you 341 Trading for sponsoring this video. And we are back and ready to dive into the deck decks. I'm going to start with the deck of the player on the left, that is Chris. Let's take a look at his Robots Brew. And here we see the Robots deck of Chris. So this is really a tier 1 deck, right? Robots is really strong in Swedish, despite the fact that you can only play with one workshop. It's just really good. And maybe it's good to first start with why is it called Robots. That's because it's built around the two artifact creatures, Triskelion and Suchi. So Triskelion, probably the best one of those two. It's 6 to cast for a 1/1 creature. I know that sounds really bad, but hold on. It comes into play with 3+1/+1 counters, so it's basically a 4/4. And then the best thing is these counters, you can take them off one at a time and deal 1 damage to any target. And this may not sound like much, but it means if your opponent, for example, disenchants your Trike, in response you can always take the counters off and kill a creature of your opponent, deal some damage to your opponent. This creature always delivers. It always gives value. It's so difficult. And even when you counter it in this deck, you can also play an Animate Dead and get it back onto the battlefield. It's just really tough to deal with this creature. And this creature is even better in combination with Copy Artifact. Copy Artifact is an enchantment for 1 blue and 1 that allows you to, you guessed it, copy an artifact. I mean, this is just bonkers. Before you know it, you'll have an army of Triskelions. And don't underestimate the Trike, because if your opponent doesn't have a blocker for it, you can attack for 4, afterwards take the counters off, so you can deal 7 damage with a single Trike if it's not checked, right? And if you have 2 Trikes, that means you can deal 14 points of damage just by having 1 clear attack with 2 Triskelions, which is not uncommon in a deck like this. It is just insane. And then he's on 6. Look at the amount of burn in the deck of Chris. 4 bolts, 4 Psionic Blasts. I mean, he can finish it off in no time. I mean, this is really going to be a rough match for any opponent. Talking about that, let's take a look at the deck of Ado, his blue-white mid-range deck. And here we see the deck of Ado. So this is blue and white mid-range. Some people know this also as a triple S deck, or some people call it a Lion Dip deck because it's got 4 Savannah Lions and 4 Surrender Freets. And so other people call this a Fantasy Zoo deck. So there are just lots of different names. I just like to call it blue-white mid-range. When you're looking at this deck photo, you may be noticing that Hill Giant in the right bottom corner in the sideboard of Ado and thinking, why is there a Hill Giant in there? Well, he won the tournament in 2023. And the cool thing is about old school, or at least I think it's a cool thing, when you win the tournament, you get the card that it's named after. So in this case, a Hill Giant. And everybody signs it. So everybody signed the card that was in that tournament in 2023. So there's a signature of me on there somewhere as well. And then when you go back to that tournament, you're expected to play that card in your deck somewhere. So for a lot of people, they put it in their sideboard, right? So it's there. When we're looking at this deck, I'm not surprised that Ado won the tournament with this blue-white mid-range deck. Blue-white is just a really strong color combination, right? Because you've got control, you've got the power, you've got really good creatures. So it's kind of all these components that are really good in Magic that you get access to just by playing with 2 colors. And that's actually one of the things I like about this deck, is that Ado kept it to just 2 colors. I think then that your deck is more consistent. There are some interesting choices, by the way, that Ado has made. And maybe it's good to start with the white part of the deck because it's mainly white. He's playing with 2 Armageddons and 2 Land Taxes, which is interesting because he's not going fully for that strategy. And I think these cards are ideal to not play a 4 of or a 3 of, because land tax on its own is really good. Armageddon timed right on its own is really good. So you don't have to build a whole strategy around it. You can just play it as a 1 of or a 2 of, and they're still really good cards. And also land tax in this deck works because look at the amount of basics that Edo has. Because he's only playing with 2 colors, he's got a lot more basics, making land tax a better choice. In other blue-white builds that, for example, splash Regrove, splash maybe Wheel, a lot of people splashed, of course, the 2 black cards, Mind Twist, Demonic Tutor, land tax wouldn't be as good because you're playing with a lot more basics. You're maybe playing with City of Brass. We're not seeing a single City of Brass here, which is another plus, I think. That makes land tax a lot better. Another thing I noticed when I'm looking at this list is that he's playing with 4 Disenchants and a Divine Offering. A lot of players make the choice to go for 3 Disenchants and a Divine Offering, or sometimes 2 Disenchants and a Divine Offering. The meta at the moment is shifting more and more towards artifacts. So I think it makes sense to go maybe a little bit on the overkill and say, hey, I'm going to play 4 Disenchants and I'm going to play a Divine Offering. It's good to have 5 ways to remove things, especially in combination with Armageddon. You want to take care of the lands, yes, but then if they have a lot of mana rocks, that whole Armageddon is not going to do much. So you also have to take care of the artifact mana of your opponent. And if you have 4 Disenchants and a Divine Offering, that can work. Also remember, we're playing in a Swedish format, meaning no mana burn, meaning there are a lot of Suchis around. So Disenchant, especially Divine Offering, is such a great answer to Suchi. Suchi just becomes like a 4 life for you for just 2 mana, and your opponent has to invest 4 to cast that Suchi, and you've got Divine Offering on instant speed dial. I can tell from experience, it's a good feeling to kind of Divine Offering a Suchi. It is really nice. And then when we're looking at the blue section of the deck, again, he's made some interesting choices. I think kind of to make space for all the disenchants, the land taxes, and all that stuff, you've got to trim a little bit. And one of the things he's done is he's trimmed in blue, right? He's not playing with Psionic Blast, which is a lot of players play with Psionic Blasts. He's not playing with Counterspells. A lot of people play with Counterspells. Although I have to say that Counterspell is going a little bit down in popularity. You see more and more decks choosing to play with 2 Counterspells and a mana drain, or no counterspells at all, but go for Psyblast and a mana drain. In this case, we see that Edo has made that decision to go more into white, not play with Psionic Blasts, not play with counterspells. He is playing with mana drain, and of course he's playing with Ancestral Recall, Time Walk, and with the Brain Geyser, not playing with the Time Twister. And I guess Time Twister doesn't really fit in the deck because he's playing more control. He's not playing with burn. Like if you want to burn someone out, then Time Twister can be really good. But that's not the case, of course. If you're playing combo, Time Twister can be really good because you're looking for specific components. But yeah, in this case, I can understand that he's not going for Time Twister. Now we're almost done. There's just one little thing I want to highlight, and that's 2 cards in the sideboard. They're kind of hidden there. They're on the right top corner, and that is the Dust to Dust. So he's playing with 2 Dust to Dusts in the sideboard. I expect them to come in game 2 and 3. Well, if we have a game 3, of course. And Dust to Dust is a sorcery from the dark for 2 white and 1 that reads, removes 2 artifacts from the game. So beautiful art by Drew Tucker, by the way. So this card, of course, could be really good against Chris because Chris is playing with a ton of artifacts. Okay, so this is the deck of Edo. We looked at the deck of Chris, so that means we are ready to go to the finals of the Hill Giant Cup number 5. Enjoy. Game number 1 here is about to start. So we've got Chris sitting on the left. He's playing Robots. And he's taking on Edo, the defending champion, and he's playing blue-white mid-range, also known as Triple S because of the Suchis, the Serra Angels, and the Serendips. And both players, of course, playing with strong decks. We see Chris here already drawing his first 7. Here we see the Hill Giant Championship card on in the sideboard of Edo, putting it out there. And Chris now deciding, is he going to keep the 7? Looks like he is. And Edo here is about to shuffle. So yeah, it's really hard to kind of, determine a favorite. These are 2 like top tier decks, I think. And of course, Edo playing with white is really handy in this matchup. White, of course, has a lot of answers to artifact threats. Then again, Chris's deck is just looking so dangerous. There's so much firepower in there. And I think that's kind of, I wouldn't say a weakness of Edo's deck, but Edo does want to win through combat damage mainly. Has, of course, some Psionic Blasts in the sideboard, but still. And Chris maybe can be a little bit more aggressive with the 4 bolts and the 4 Psionic Blasts main. And now Edo also picking up his 7 cards. Let's see if he wants to keep. And if the finals can begin, here we see the hand of Edo. Oh, nice. There we see the hand of Chris. Also a strong hand there. He's got a workshop. He also has a turn 1 potential, turn 1 Chaos Orb. But of course, for Edo, we saw the Black Lotus and a land, so he can go for turn 1 Suchi. Let's see if he wants to do that. It's always risky, right? Because then you sack your Lotus, and if your opponent has an answer to your Suchi, you're going to get 2 for 1. Then again, it is turn 1, so maybe you can get some damage in before he finds an answer. Here we see him sacking the Lotus, and there's the Suchi. So turn 1 aggression here from Edo. Early on attack. Well, attack, but early on pressure by Edo. I should say the attack is perhaps coming next turn. Now remember, Chris has that workshop. Probably going to play workshop here into Chaos Orb. No, he's not. He's going to go for City of Brass. And of course, the plus of that is then the next turn he can go workshop, Chaos Orb, and flip in the same turn. Here we see an island, tapping 2. There's a Felwar Stone passing turn. That Felwar Stone is really good because of the City of Brass can make now any color of mana for Edo. And I think if you're Chris, you're also kind of happy with this because it means that Edo's kind of open. You don't have to worry about a disenchant being played out by Edo when you potentially activate that Chaos Orb to flip on the Suchi. So here we see the workshop being tapped. There we see the Chaos Orb. So I'm expecting a flip now. There goes the Emerald to flip. Is there going to be a response? No response. It's going to go for the Suchi. And he's going to flip. First flip in the finals. It's a hit. Very controlled flip. Went quite quickly. Suchi is a goner. Now remember, we're not playing with the mana burn because they are playing according to the Swedish rules. If you want to know more about the rules, check out the description below because there you can find some more information. Look at this, just a pass by Edo. That's not good. No land drop. Ooh, this could be a problem. Just a factory door for Chris and a pass. Okay, finding a Tundra. Of course, also has that Felwar Stone, so it has 4 mana. There's another Suchi. And I mean, Suchi is good, but the problem here in this matchup is that it's also a target, or we're going to see a Psionic Blast. Here's a Psionic Blast. What I wanted to say is that it's also a target for the copy artifacts of Chris. So you could get into a situation where Chris will copy your Suchi and then kill it with the Psionic Blast. You know, and then you're staring down at a 4/4 creature. But in this case, there was a quick Psionic Blast. Chris can now attack, of course, with his factory. Gonna animate, gonna swing in. And that's a safe attack, of course, because Edo is completely tapped out. So Edo dropping to 18. And look at that life total of Chris, by the way, already on 13. There we see a Plains. So, I mean, the land problems are kind of solved. You know, he had that hiccup. But after that, he found 2 lands. There's a Serra Angel. So, I mean, Edo is really playing threat after threat. And it's really up to Chris to see how he can respond. Already played out a Chaos Orb and a Psionic Blast to deal with the 2 Suchis. Does he have another Psionic Blast here to deal with the Serra Angel? We see 5 cards in hand for Chris. Only 2 cards in hand, I believe, for Edo. Okay, Chris tapping 3. There's another Psionic Blast. Yeah, I mean, this is great. When you're playing with 4 Psionic Blasts, it's an answer to almost every creature in the deck of Edo. You know, because Serendip has 4 toughness, Suchi has 4 toughness, Serra Angel has 4 toughness. Ooh, this is good at Brain Geyser. So he's going to draw 3. It's like a Ancestral Recall, but a little bit more expensive to cast. Going to play a land for turn and pass turn. So yeah, this is really good for Edo, kind of getting him back because he was getting light on cards there in hand. And are we going to see some robots from the side of Chris? He's just going to animate those, swing in for 2 it seems, or not. No, he's going to copy artifact first, makes sense. Attack, and he can actually pump it immediately, exactly, because the copy doesn't come into play as a 2/2 creature. I know it's weird, but that's how it works. It's a land, so you can tap it immediately to pump the factory worker, dealing 3 damage. So Edo dropping to 15, now taking on his turn. And Chris on 11 here. So 15 versus 11. Game number 1 of the finals here of the Hill Giant Cup. It's going to animate. There's a quick lightning bolt. Yeah, there are just so many answers here in the deck of Chris. I mean, the silver lining, if there is a silver lining for Edo, is maybe that, okay, he's not pointing all the direct damage at you, but at your creatures. I mean, there's already 11 points of direct damage there in the bin. And here we see a Serendip, by the way. And let's see what Chris can do. Tapping 3. Okay, there's a city in a bottle. Yeah, that was in his opener. Taking care of the Serendip Efreet. And I mean, Chris is doing such a good job killing every single threat that Edo is playing out. And I mean, he's played 2 Suchis, Sarah Angel, Serendip Efreet. They're all gone. They're all in the graveyard. You know, rest in peace. They're gone. And again, Edo will have to rebuild. Tapping 2 here. What can he do? There we see a disenchant. Exactly, that kind of indicates that he's got a Serendip Efreet. And this is why City in a Bottle is so good, because it does the job, right? It got rid of the Serendip, and after that, Edo has to spend yet another card to get rid of the bottle. And then finally, he can play out his Serendip again. And there we go, attacking for 4. Again, kind of indicating that he's got a bolt in hand, right? If he blocks now one of the Serendips, one of the factories with the Serendip, then the Serendip will probably get bolted. He's just going to take the damage, going to go to 7. Untap, upkeep, take a damage, go to 6. Oh, this is risky. Already on 6. Gonna go. I love the aggression here, putting Chris on 7. I wonder if he's got another creature as a follow-up. You would kind of expect that. Also thinking of that lightning bolt earlier in the game. Okay, here we see a Chaos Orb. Oh, this is so risky. I would actually flip now. Exactly. So he's going to flip. We see a lightning bolt here. He's going to drop to 3. Oh, he needs to hit this this factory. I assume it's going to be on a factory. No, it's not. That means he's got a disenchant in hand. It's a hit. Yeah, gonna take the Badlands. So at least now he's protected from any further bolts. I mean, he's on 3, so it's super risky. Passes the turn. Psionic Blast wins the game here. Or, of course, Mountain Bolt. There's another factory. Yeah, this is a problem. Gonna attack with both. This is a problem. He's got a disenchant for 1. He can pump it with the other. There's the pump. Another one. Look at that. Double Swords to Plowshares. Wow. Sorry, I just needed a moment to realize. I thought he was done. I expected him to have maybe 1 Swords or 1 Disenchant, but no. Look at that double Swords to Plowshares. Does mean that Chris is going to go up to 12. And look at that. Edo going to 2. Oh, man. Attacking again. Going to put Chris back to 9. There's a Savannah Lines, really good. That's a great blocker for that factory of Chris. Oh man, this is really risky. There's the Badlands. Are we gonna see a bolt? There's a bolt. I think this is game. Or oh, look at that! It's gonna sort its own Serendip. Gonna go up to 5, I believe. And then of course you get the 3 damage from the lightning bolt, so you're on 2. So you stay on the same life total. But wow, what a moment. So there were already 2 turns where I thought Edo was toast, and every single time he saved himself. He's on 2 at the moment. Edo having 1 card in hand, really in the tank here. I wonder what that card is. And even if it's a land, right, you kind of want to take your time. You want to give the feeling to your opponent that you've got something good. You know, make him doubt himself, make him wonder, and maybe then he's going to do a crazy play. Tapping 6, there's a Triskelion, probably the victory here. Or does he have a mana drain? Okay, he's going to Swords to Plowshares his own lion here. So he stays on 2 after taking the 2 damage from the Trite. So in response, he swords his own lion. That's it. Wow, man, Chris finally winning, but it was a job. It was a tough job for Chris. but I'm really impressed with how easy Chris could kind of deal with all the threats of Ado, because Ado kept playing threats, but those Psionic Blasts in this matchup, I think they're absolutely golden. Anyway, both players now are going to shuffle up and dive into their sideboards, and we will catch back up with them in game number 2. Game number 2, here we go, with, of course, Ado on the play after losing that first game. So let's see what he's packing. Ooh, a Dust to Dust in that hand. Pretty slow hand, I have to say. No Moxa, no Ramp. Oh, look at that. Talking about Ramp, we've got Black Lotus, Mox Sapphire, that counterspell as well in hand, and a Triskelion. I believe also a City in a bottle there for Chris. So very good hand for Chris. I believe he can go, Mox Sapphire, perhaps an Underground Sea. Then he has Counter Magic online. But first, let's see what Ado can do here. Starting with a land and a pass. So that's the Mishra's Factory. And here we see that Underground Sea followed by the Sapphire. So now Chris has Counter Magic from turn 1. That's super annoying for Ado, of course. Let's see what Ado can do. There's a Plains. I wonder if he's going to disenchant the Sapphire here. I mean, the interesting thing would be if he would do that, and then he kind of forces Chris, in a difficult position. Does he want to counter or not? But Ado just passing the turn. Also not attacking with the Factory, which is interesting considering, the fact that Chris only has blue open. So what could he do against a Factory? But perhaps Ado wants to keep the disenchant option going. And here we see a Factory, by the way, and a Black Lotus. Cracking the Lotus. Okay, I think we're going to see that Trike here. Tapping the rest, 6 mana in total. There's a Triskelion, so a 4/4 on the battlefield. And of course, there are 3 +1/+1 counters on it that you can take off to deal 1 damage to any target. And we do not see the disenchant. Ooh, now we could play the Dust to Dust. Tapping 3. There is the Dust to Dust. Look at that value for Ado. And Ado, of course, dropping to 17 because in response, we see the 3 damage from the Trike going towards the life total of Ado. So Chris dealing that 3 points of damage. Taking on his turn. Also has an attack here with the Factory, potentially. There's a Badlands. Not a second blue source, by the way. So the counter spell in the hand of Chris is useless at the moment. Ado dropping here to 15. Yeah, this Dust to Dust was really, really good for Ado. Really what he needed. And here we see the other Factory. So could animate the Factory. Problem, of course, is that red source open for Chris, because that gives him the possibility to potentially play out a Lightning Bolt if you animate your Factory. And Ado here really in the tank, perhaps thinking about, do I want to attack or not? Do I want to take that risk? It's going to tap 3. Okay, there's a Surrender Pefreet. Now remember, I believe in the opening hand we saw a City in a Bottle by Chris. Ooh, if he plays a City, he plays a City. I'm a little bit surprised because now he's going to destroy his own City of Brass. Could have kept it in hand, or at least decide to tap the City to cast a City in a Bottle. Then having your Factory potentially untapped, you could have maybe done something with that still. But anyway, the decision is made. So that card with all the glare is the City in a Bottle. Here we see another Factory. Beautiful Winter Factories, by the way. Attacking here with both. Dealing 5 points of damage after the pump. Chris dropping to 15. Yeah, those Mishra's Factories could start to become a problem for Chris. Also, Chris cannot find another blue source. Tapping 3. What are we going to see? There's a Wheel of Fortune. Okay. Abyss is gone. Suchi gone. Counterspell gone. Suchi and I believe a Disenchant is surrendered there. And perhaps another Disenchant. Yeah, and Suchi would have been really nice. But both players basically losing a Suchi there to the wheel. And I believe Chris hasn't played out the land yet. So can still play out his land for turn. There we see a Mox Pearl. There is, okay, there's a Badlands giving you access to that red mana. Passing the turn. And let's see what Ado can do here. I mean, ideally, you would want to just cast a Sarah Angel, right? Just go Sarah Angel, go. So Edo now having 8 cards in hand after that wheel and the draw. Both players are on 15, by the way. There's another Plains, so 6 mana in total to spend. And I think the problem for Edo's deck is still that there are so many answers in Chris's deck. Look at that, he's going to animate and swing in. He's going to say, you know what, I'm just going to attack. There we see a lightning bolt here on one of the 2 factories. I would almost say as to be expected. You know, when you make an attack like this, you're probably going to run into a bolt and lose one of the 2 factories. You can pump the other, of course, still deal 3. Or say I'm just going to deal 2 and I'm going to leave my other one untapped to use it as a blocker, or perhaps to cast a disenchant next turn if Chris animates his factory. But let's first see if Edo wants to respond. Perhaps he's got a blue elemental blast. It could be an option. Yep, there's the blue elemental blast taking care of the bolt. Dealing 5. Look at that, Chris dropping to 10. Yeah, factory is such a good card. It's difficult. It adds up, you know, especially when your opponent has 3 factories. Beautiful winter factories, both players. Now remember, the card with all the glare on the side of Chris is a city in a bottle. Here we see another factory. That could work for Chris. Okay, he's going to attack for 2 here. Quite aggressive. Going to pump as well. Edo dropping to 7. There's a time walk. Ooh, that's problematic. He can attack again for 4 at least. Put him on 8. Wow, this is a great time walk by Chris. And remember, Chris's deck is also packed with direct damage. Oh, this could be a problem here for Edo. 3 cards in hand, I believe they're for Chris. Can swing in for 4, put Edo on 8, and then all he needs is double Psionic Blast to seal the deal. Gonna animate here. Or not. No, changing his mind. Perhaps he's got a Triskelion he could cast. Or Suchi, copy Suchi. That's another great play. Chris is tapping here the Pearl, attacking with 1, it seems, or animating 1. Now remember, Edo's tapped out, so he doesn't really have to worry about any responses from Edo. Copy artifact, copying the factory. So Chris now also has 3 factories in total, attacking with 1 of the factories. I wonder if he's going to pump. I mean, you also need your blockers, right? You're on 10. There's the attack with the 2-2, so it looks like Edo's going to drop here to 10 as well. Both players on 10. There's the pass. Okay. So both players on 10. Edo taking the turn. Remember, he's already a game behind. We're in the finals. He's fighting to stay in it. The reigning champion battling against Chris here. Tapping 5, or we're going to see Sarah Angel. Sarah Angel hitting the board. There she is. Passing the turn. On end step, there's a Psionic Blast on the Angel. Yeah, you can kind of expect that, right? Like, Psionic Blast is so good for Chris here in this matchup. It's going to tap 2, though. There's a mana drain. So it's going to mana drain away the Psionic Blast, so the Sarah Angel stays alive. And one of the things that Chris could do if he doesn't have another Psionic Blast is simply attack with one of the factories. He could pump it up to a 4-4 and trade 1 factory for an Angel. It's going to tap 2 here. The Pearl and the Badlands. There's a Terror. Wow, that is a good card coming in from the sideboard, I assume. This is really good. Now he can swing in for 6 if he wants to, put him on 4. Only 1 card left in Chris's hand. Of course, the problem is if Chris goes here for the full Alpha Strike, he's also open next turn. So, of course, Chris is in the tank here thinking what to do. Should I just go for 6, put him on 4, take some damage next turn, and maybe when it's my turn, I can finish him off. Tapping 2. Gonna animate 2, not the full 3, so I guess he's gonna swing in for 4. Gonna keep 1 on blocking duty. I mean, the problem with that strategy is that then Edo can maybe just attack with 1, you know? Yeah, gonna animate all of them. Attack for 6. Put him on 4. Oh! That is so risky, passing the turn. I think Edo has to win it here, or else it's the end of the road for him. There's another duel. 3 Tundras, 2 Plains, 3 Mishra's Factories, 4 life remaining, 10 life for Chris. Game number 2, 1 game behind. What can he do? Okay, there's a Sarah Angel, of course, getting the mana from the mana drain. Yeah, should he just keep everything on blocking duty? Gonna tap 4. Okay, there's a Suchi as well. Passing the turn. Oh, but what if Chris can find a Psionic Blast? That will give him the game here. Tapping the deck, looking for that Psionic Blast. Two cards in hand. I mean, this is tough, right? If Chris does nothing, he's simply going to take at least 4 from the Sarah Angel next turn. So has to find a way to get rid of that Sarah. You're really in the tank here. I mean, for example, you could attack with 1 factory, then probably you end up trading that 1 factory for another creature, but then you got to tap your factories to pump it up, and then you don't have any blockers anymore. So that's not really an attractive option. It really depends on that card there in the hand of Chris. The problem here is if Chris does nothing and passes the turn, he knows he's going to take another 4 from the Sarah. He's got 2 cards in hand, by the way, not 1, of course, after the draw. So yeah, really a tough spot here for Chris. Edo really had a good turn, casting and a Sarah and a Suchi in a single turn, thanks to the mana he got from the mana drain. But of course, there's also pressure for Edo, because Edo knows if Chris draws into Psionic Blast, it is game over. Two cards in hand for Chris. We can kind of see that there was a blue card there in that hand. Perhaps a counter spell. So yeah, Chris, of course, really taking his time. Knows how important this turn can be. Then again, he's on 10, so probably has 1 more turn after this one. Tapping 2, what are we going to see? Is that maybe that blue... Oh, he's going to... No, he's not going to animate. Tapping 5, tapping 6. Are we going to see a Triskelion here? Oh, there's a Brain Geyser. Wow, that is risky. So a Brain Geyser for 4. So that was the blue card in hand. But I mean, he's only got 2 open mana now. He's on 10. I mean, he's going to die the next turn. I wonder what he has in hand. Probably some bolts then. There we see an island. Does he have a Psionic Blast? Did he find one? Or perhaps a double bolt that can also grant him the victory. Tapping the blue, tapping the 2, okay. What are we going to see? There's a Disintegrate. Okay, Disintegrate for 2. It's going to drop to 2. And that's it. Yeah, putting the cards there on the table. And I think he really went for that Psionic Blast. Really tried to find it, couldn't find it. Had the Disintegrate instead. So that means it is 1-1. And that makes me very happy, because it means we're going to go to a game number 3. Yes! Game number 3, the big decider. And we have Chris here on the play. Let's take a look. Oh, this is really nice. The old school scene is the best, man. We're all very friendly. And Chris and Ado, both of them great guys. Let the best man win. Here we see the hand of Ado. Wow, Ancestral Recall, only one land, but because of that recall, you're going to keep it. Tundra into Ancestral Recall. Then you'll probably find some more lands. Look at that Library of Alexandria here in the finals. Wow, what a start. That is really good for Chris. But remember, Ado, of course, having that Ancestral Recall, it looks like he found a basic island from the top, playing out the island, passing the turn. There's the Ancestral Recall in the upkeep here, drawing 3 cards. And also Chris drawing a card. So both players basically drawing cards like crazy, doing busted stuff. Welcome to old school. And let's see. Oh, there's a workshop or not. Okay, taking it back. Yep, there's a workshop. Oh man, this looks like a really good start for Chris. Can he find workshop Maksuchi? And then again, do you want to? Because you want to keep an active Library of Alexandria, of course. I believe he's got 9 cards in hand, right? So now playing the workshop, having 8 left. Okay, now he's back on 7, passing the turn. It's looking very risky here for Ado, I have to say. Gonna tap 2 here. Are we gonna see a Disenchant? We're gonna see a COP red. Yeah, and the thing is, Ado doesn't really have any like land destruction. It's gonna be difficult for him to battle. And look at that, having to discard. He discarding his Sarah, having to battle that Library of Alexandria. Has, of course, a Strip Mine and a Chaos Orb in the deck. And here we see Chris, of course, continue drawing cards. So playing a card out. I believe he still has 8 in hand right now. Tapping. Okay, there's a Chaos Orb. He's going to flip the orb immediately. And it makes sense because Ado is tapped out. So he cannot, for example, play a Disenchant in response. Going to flip here on the Tundra. Oh, it's a miss. Oh, a mister in the finals. I believe Chris has missed 0 flips thus far this tournament day, but now in the finals, at the deciding game, he misses the flip. Really good news here for Ado. Ado finding his own Chaos Orb, passing the turn. Look at that, doesn't have a 3rd land. So it was really important for Ado that Chris here missed the flip. That was vital. And Chris here drawing card number 8. What are we going to see? Are we going to see Asuchi, Triskelion? Has enough mana. It's going to tap. Okay, going to untap again. Looked like, for a moment, it looked like he wanted to tap 6. No, just passing the turn. And I'm expecting a flip here. On the Library of Alexandria. Or not. Has found another duel. Yep, gonna tap, gonna activate. Is there gonna be any response? I don't think there's... Are there shatters in the sideboard of Chris? I'm not sure. Anyway, no response. There's the flip. Oh, good hit. Look at that. Very like a surgeon. Like, rip, rip. Well done. And both players, very experienced Chaos Flippers, by the way. In case you're wondering. There's the pass here by Ado. Yeah, and I mean, for Ado, this is great, right? The missed flip by Chris, and then he hits his flip, taking care of the low. He's really back into the game. There's an Underground Sea. Gonna tap 6, it seems. Yep, there's a Triskelion. The 4/4 powerhouse from Antiquities. Passing the turn back to Ado. And I mean, Ado has to get rid of this strike before he starts copying it. Looks like he can, though, playing out a Surrender Befreet. 3/4 flyer from Arabian Nights. And yeah, I'm kind of expecting Chris here to just attack with the 4/4. If he has a Psyblast, could also consider to play Psyblast and then attack for 6, animate the factory. But he is attacking here just with the trike. Ado taking the damage, dropping to 16. Gonna tap 4. We're gonna see a Suchi. No, there's the Abyss from the... Ooh, that's not even from the sideboard. I won't say from the sideboard, but no, this is main board. Taking care of the Serendip. I have to say the Serendip is looking really bad in this matchup because it dies to City in a Bottle, dies to the Abyss, dies to Psionic Blast. It basically dies to everything except for the Bolt. Dies to Terror. Tapping 4. Okay, there's a Suchi. At least that doesn't die to the Abyss. There's a counterspell though. Oh man, this is brutal. And now it could go really, really fast because next turn Chris can animate his factory as well, swing in for 6, put Ado on 9. There's the attack. Gonna go to 11. Not animating his factory. I wonder what he wants to use the mana for. Gonna tap 3. Okay, there's a Psyblast. Gonna tap 3. There's another Psyblast. Oh, is he dead? 8 damage, drop to 3. Take the counters off. He wins it here. Whoa! Congratulations, Chris. You are the new winner of the Hill Giant Cup, the 5th edition. And the cool thing is, by the way, he also gets that playmat. The playmat that Ado is playing with. The winner gets it for a full year until we have the new Hill Giant. And that playmat is made by none other than Dan Frazier. He custom made it. It's a unique piece. And it's now, for a year at least, Chris is to play on. So Chris, congratulations, man. This is really a great victory. And what a great finals that was. And before we go, I would like to thank you for watching another episode right here on Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school Magic. And I would, of course, like to thank everybody that was present at the Hill Giant Cup. And, of course, a special thanks to Joep for organizing these events. He's my brother, and he organizes the Hill Giant Cup for how many years now, Joep? 5, maybe 6? Anyway, thank you so much for organizing this tournament. I'm already looking forward to edition number 6. And again, a big congratulations to Chris and also to the runner-up Ado, who was the defending champion. So winning it last year, making it all the way to the finals this year, that is quite an accomplishment. And here, by the way, you can see a picture of Chris, who is signing the playmat. So each winner signs the playmat, uses the playmat for a year, and then of course there's a new battle next year for who gets the playmat after that. For now, thank you again very much for watching. Before you go, please take a moment to like, comment, and share on this video. All these things are free and really help the channel move forward. And talking about moving forward, you can also become a patron of the show. Check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks to find out how you can support the channel. And if you support the channel, then you can also find your name in the end scroll at the end of every single video. What end scroll? This end scroll.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober. Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, pull out the plug and wet him all over, pull out the plug and wet him all over, pull out the plug and wet him all over. Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning. What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Put him in the scout to the husband, put him in the scout to the husband, put him in the scout to the husband. Early in the morning, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises. Early in the morning.
Icketus, ficketus, sumba, kazee.